Morning. Thanks for being here this weekend. My name's Ryan, one of the pastors on staff. If this is your first time, thanks so much for popping out and showing up today. Let me just walk you through a handful of things that might be a little bit unique to your experience today. You've got a really unique weekend in front of us, and so I want to make sure you're up to speed on that. We've been in the middle of a series called Here to There for the last several weeks, and that's not just a series for us, really. This is a new chapter, actually that we're opening up in kind of a new phase, a new season here at our campus. And so super glad that you're here. And I want you to know that this is going to be, of course, a very, very unique conversation as we're kind of bringing this to a head today, this set of conversations that we've been in. And when we talk about here to there, here's kind of the big idea. We've been looking at moving as a campus and as a church from kind of one location to a different one, and then one place spiritually, kind of from where we are to where we believe God is taking us. And so we've been kind of describing that over the last several weeks and looking at what it's going to mean to physically move from this building to another building that we're looking to invest in and remodel. And as we kind of move from here to there, we're taking that opportunity to really have this be a journey that we are on together as a church family, as individuals, and kind of as individual families to say we really want to see God move in us and talking about what that means and how that works. And so love for you to catch up online over the last few weeks if you're curious. But the biggest thing I want you to know if you're a guest with us is I really don't want you to feel any pressure whatsoever to respond to anything that we're talking about today. We just want you to hang out and just experience, kind of see it play out. And we're just glad that you're here, right? It's a big deal because this is going to be different really than any service that we've ever had before in some ways because this is our commitment weekend. We're looking at it culminating all that we've been talking about and kind of defining what does it mean for us to commit to this together and move forward. So that's what we've been in the middle of, and again, kind of bringing this to a head today. And as I've been thinking about where we've been and where we are, the biblical story that has really come to my mind in a pretty powerful way is the story of the Exodus, of God's people being led out of the nation of Egypt, being set free, and then moving really through the Red Sea in pursuit of the Promised Land. And it was a fascinating story. If you remember it, it's super interesting what happened. It's a long story, but here's kind of what happened. Here's the big picture of it. The nation of Egypt, over a bunch of years, kind of forgot about how much Israel had helped them in the past, and they enslaved the Israelites. The people of God is probably the way we would think of it. And these Israelites turned into their workforce, and they started building stuff for them. And those people multiplied, and they were enslaved. They were kind of their enslaved workforce, and they had become dependent on them. And they were so numerous, so many of them, they became fearful of them. And they were like, hey, man, if these guys got organized and revolted against us, they could take us down. So they really were cruel to the people of God. And so a long, cool set of stories, all in the book of Exodus, if you want to go check it out. But God decided at a certain time to set his people free. And he did that through a series of miraculous events and judgments against the nation of Egypt. And as he performed those, he slowly kind of broke the grip that the leaders, the Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, and the leadership had on the people of Israel. And finally, the Egyptian Pharaoh said, okay, you guys can go. You can leave. And as that was playing out, the Israelites start to leave Egypt, and they kind of know that Pharaoh bounces back. He kind of flip-flops on his positions, and it's not that different than government probably today, right? So he kind of flips on where he's at, and he knows that probably he's going to come back after us and want to re-enslave us. And so they leave, and here's kind of where we're going to pick up the story in Exodus chapter 14, he says, or 13, he says this, so God led the people around by the desert road toward the Red Sea, and the Israelites went up out of Egypt ready for battle. So they kind of expected Pharaoh and the Egyptian soldiers to come after them and come to get them. And as they did that, though, they were hemmed up against the Red Sea, And they're wondering, is Egypt going to come in behind us? And they were kind of stuck in some ways, right? And what really happened is as that played out, the people of Israel would be nervous. They kind of expected it to happen. And here's what Moses said. He answered the people, said, don't be afraid. Stand firm, and you will see the deliverance the Lord will bring you today. The Egyptians you see today, you will never see again. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. Love that passage. So Moses is going to look at kind of where the people of Israel sit, and right, you've got the enemies are coming in behind them. And then they've got the Red Sea in front of them. And he's going to speak to this people and say, don't be afraid. Don't worry. I've got this. I'm going to take care of you. And what's fascinating is we've all seen this kind of situation play out in our lives. And frankly, we've seen these kind of situations in some ways play out even in our church life, where we've been stuck and not really known how we're going to move forward. If you've been around the journey for any length of time, some of you know the story of how we were in Springfield High School. This is how this campus was functioning. And COVID hit, and we had nowhere to go. We're stuck. Where do we go from here? We don't have a building. Who in their right mind is going to let our 120 people that could have COVID go into their building? Come on in, guys, right? Bring it on in. Bring the COVID, right? Bring the vid, right? So nobody's going to do that. We're stuck. We have no place to land. We have to keep functioning. I'm a brand new campus pastor. We're hemmed in on both sides with no real solution that makes any sense. Feels impossible. This church here, this church building that eventually we joined with, the Crossview Church, they had gone through a leadership transition and split. They had no pastor. They had 22 people. No path forward. Nowhere to go. How are we gonna move forward from here? There's no answer. Feels overwhelming. There's no clear path. How do we move forward from here? What God would do is God's people were still, cried out to God and asked God to move, is God made the answers to each other's prayer in our union with each other. Crossview didn't have a path forward, and there's no leadership forward, and no way to move, and we had no building and no place to land and call, right? And he brought us together, and he delivered both of our problems by bringing us to one another. That same process played out in the Arlington Memorial Baptist Church that came to us about not even a year ago and said, we're kind of at wit's end. We don't know how to move forward. We're stuck. Would you join with us? And we looked and said, we're kind of, as a church, we're not sure how we're going to move forward, right? God delivered us. He gave us this place. And you can tell it's kind of getting full in here. And we're like, man, what are we going to do next, right? We've only been here for like 18 months. It feels like this place is going to not be quite enough for us. How do we move forward? God brought these answers together. New location, new place to land, powerful deliverance. All in answer to his prayer. In this story, this situation, is the situation that God's people often find themselves in. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't seem like there's an answer. We just want to we're going to wait on God and see if he will move. And then in hindsight, we look back and we can see that God has moved in powerful and miraculous ways. That's what would happen here in the book of Exodus. Moses talked to the people and said, hey, don't be afraid, right? You just ask God to move, and And then Moses would go turn to prayer and begin to ask God to move. Right? This is how it often is with leadership. Right? As leaders, we stand up and we say, hey guys, believe God and trust in God. And then we turn and we go talk to God and we're like, God, help me. Right? I have no idea what's going on. That's the reality, by the way. That's how it really works. And Moses would have done that, and he would have cried out to the Lord and asked him to move. And I love this. Look at what he says in the next verse in Exodus 14:15. Then the Lord said to Moses, why are you crying out to me? Why are you crying out to me? Tell the Israelites to move on. Moses is like, there's no solution, man. I don't see it. He's like, it says, actually, just have the people move. And then what he tells Moses to do is Moses' part in all of it. Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and all that night the Lord drove the sea back with a strong east wind and turned it into dry land. The waters were divided, and the Israelites went through the sea on dry ground with a wall of water on their right and on their left. So Moses says, hey, God, not sure what we're supposed to do here. And he says, in essence, hey, Moses, it's time to stop praying and act. Why are you crying out to me? Move. Tell the people it's time to go. It's time to actually embrace what I've brought you into. And that's what Moses does, is he looks and says, hey, it's time to move on. It's time to embrace the place that I've sent you. And he look and say, I've dealt with your problems over here. I've pushed the waters back. I've removed the obstacles that are in front of you. Right? And we can relate to this. We can look back and say, God, the problems and the obstacles that were consuming us as a church, they're gone. The things that I lost sleep over 18 months ago or 2 years ago are irrelevant now. God, what are we going to do? How are we going to find a building? Gone. Lord, are we ever going to be able to regather again? Gone. Lord, what are we going to do? We're running out of space. How are we going to move forward? We're going to have to buy all the houses over here and build something, right? Some crazy, gone. The people in Arlington that were wondering, how are we ever going to take care of this building? Is there going to be a path forward? That all those problems, gone. People in Crossview that were wondering, how are we going to move forward? And are we going to ever have a church? That question, will we continue as a church? Gone. God's like, done. I'm moving the waters. I'm parting the Red Sea. What I'm asking you to do is to act, to move into what I have already done. And as they did that, I just want to recognize, I think that would have been a freaky thing to do. You just imagine walking in between walls of water. You'd be like, this is amazing to watch. I'm not sure this thing's going to hold. You know? Is this going to, God, are you going to keep doing this? Are you going to keep pushing back the waters? Or am I going to believe in you and then it just all comes crashing down? Because that's what's happened. That's what it feels like's happened sometimes before in our lives. God, can I really trust you with this? Can I follow and move into the areas that you're asking me to move into? But those questions would mount for them just like they mount for us. There's unknowns, right? This is where we are. God, we see what you're doing. We see that you have opened the way, that you've provided supernaturally, that you have set us on a path, that you've given us a supernatural unity, that you've given us a vision and a mission, and you're just asking us to move on that. But we would look and say, yeah, but what about the economy? Like, am I going to have a job in 12 months? Will inflation ever stop? Right? Am I going to be able to? Well, those are questions. We wonder and we have fears and we have doubts and we wonder, are they going to hold? Yeah, things are great right now. Are they going to keep being great? We wonder and we worry. And as we begin to take a step into the path, those things are on our minds. God, will you provide for me? If I risk, will you be there? If I stretch, if I really tackle this area I've been stuck in, are you going to show up in all that? It's scary, it's unknown. Where's it all going to go? Right? And we know the story that what God had in mind for them is they embraced the challenge to move, is that he would take them through a season of growth as a people and challenge, and he had in mind for them the promised land. Right? But first they had to step into it, to move on it. They had to say yes. And guys, in some ways, I feel like this is a bit of where we are today. Right? God has cleared the path. We're not wondering what to do or where to go anymore. Spent a lot of time in those questions. The what to do and where to go has been clarified. Now the question is, will we do it? Will we move from here to there? That's the question on the table. It's literally one of courage and one of faith. Will we embrace the path that God has laid out for us? I love that one of our steering team members said this. It just stuck with me since I heard it. Here's what here to there is. It's simply our response to what God has already done. It's just our response to what God has already done. Like the Israelites who looked at the path, they looked at how God cleared the way, wondered about the question marks and wondered about the enemies behind them. God took care of them. He ended up smashing the waters on, right? He took care of all that. And we have an enemy. We have an enemy that is against and is opposing everything we're doing right now. A spiritual enemy that hates the unity that we've experienced, that hates the momentum that we have in bringing the gospel to this community. That's real. We can look and say, God, that's feels scary. God's like, I will take care of your enemies. I will provide for your unknowns. I'll clear the way for your obstacles. You move. That's our part. God does all the parts except the parts that he involves us in, and that involves our response. God's not going to take a step for me. He makes the step possible. He clears the path, and then he looks to you and I to say, will you follow me? Are you in? And I believe that's where we are this moment. Are you in? It's the question. You guys, here's what we've been saying over the last handful of weeks, just in a quick snapshot. We've been talking about impacting our community. We want to bring the gospel to this area in a stronger and clearer way. We want to do that through service. We want to do that through hospitality, through go and do, through restore. We want to do that through opening our building and making it a place where guests feel welcomed and loved and valued. Right? So we're remodeling our auditorium and our lobby, investing into that, investing into service projects in the community, investing into building an additional home for Restore that can help the path from dependency to sobriety easier for the ministry. Impacting our community is huge. Here's the next one, becoming disciples. We talked about investing into spaces where we you and I can be equipped and learn and grow and change. And here's the challenge. It's absolutely huge. We said we need to determine that we are not willing to tolerate being in the same place 3 years from now that we're in right now. That's a decision that I'm making and I'm asking you to make. To say, I want my knowledge of God's word and my passion for his kingdom to grow. And in 3 years from now, I want to look different than I look today. I want to look more like Jesus. I want to think more like him, talk more, be like, right? I want to see the world the way that he sees it. And we've got to make spaces and environments and places for that to be able to happen. Rooms dedicated to learning how to engage with God and to do that with each other. Rooms to pray and gather and seek God. Rooms where stories can be built of life change, where people can be, where I can be set free and you can be set free. We said it's not enough to make a big impact if we don't change. We have to be a people that are being transformed. And out of that change in us, we believe the overflow of that will change the community. We want to be the real deal. We want to be disciples. Finally, we want to build the next generation. As we look at who is coming up, kids, students, next generation leaders, we said we're going to invest into a staff member, Hannah Schaefer, to be our Power Kids director, and ask her to help us as this big wave of children are showing up at our church, and how there's a tsunami of small babies, right, that are showing up, which is awesome. We want to be able to care for them, invest in them, raise volunteers, and Hannah will help us to do that. We want to invest in the physical spaces where our children are going to be. A new Power Kids wing in the building. Invest into remodeling that and making that a safe, loving, warm environment for our kids. We said we want to invest into our students. Our student ministries is exploding right now, from about 10 to 12 to about 35 to 45 in a very short amount of time. We said we want to invest in River, and River's one of our staff members, an intern right now. We want to help him be a resident, bring him on for a 3-year window as we invest into our students, middle school and high school students, and even catalyze efforts into reaching young adults and connecting them. These 3 areas are the clear things that we know we need to give ourselves to. And last week, if you were here, or if you watched online, I asked you, if you're part of the family here, to really consider how God may be moving your heart to be a part of it. Right? I prayed that, our staff prayed that, our steering team, right? Across the board, this is all of us. What we said is we need to be able to do this together. And there were 3 commitments that we were looking to make. And guys, if you have a pledge card with you, one of those pledge packs, maybe take that out and take a look at it. Walk you through it real quick. On the front of that pledge card, it should say here to there. Let me show you an example. It should say here to there. And here's what we talked through. We talked through 3 big decisions we're asking every individual to make. Right here, the first one is that we would grow in our relationship with God. Right? We'd grow in our relationship with Christ. Let me just say, you don't even need to pray about that one. That is the will of God. Right? If you ever wondered, what does God really want? He wants you, and he wants your relationship with him. Done. But we're asking, will you commit to that, making that decision? The second one was participating in a serving team or a small group. This is you and I saying, hey, I will do some stuff to be a part of it. I'll be equipped in my relationship with Jesus. I'll go to a class or join a group, or I'll join a team. Some of you talked to me about wanting to be involved in the building. Right? There's going to be some spaces where we could actually do some work in the building, physical work to help remodel it. If you're in on that, awesome. Check that box. will help you get connected. Some of you are looking for Bible studies. Some of you are looking to serve on a team on the weekend. All that fits into that one check mark. We'll follow up with you and talk to you about what you want to do. What step do you want to take? That's the second one. The third one is to give financially, to here to there. The reality is everything we're describing costs money. Drywall, staff, giving resources financially to our partner in Restore and to go and do. All of those things cost financial resources. So let me walk you through what that looks like and what that means. A few things I want to say even before we get into the nitty-gritty of these. We don't talk about money a ton here. We probably should talk about it more because money and our hearts are connected together. Let me also say this. We're not in financial need as a campus. Our budget is met. It's over 100. God is providing richly. This is not a desperation conversation. This is an advancement conversation. And let me say this. When you think about giving financially to the church and to here to there, I want you to think about it in a few ways. First, if you're giving anything currently to the church, this is above and beyond that. Okay, I want to make sure you understand that piece of it. Another piece I want to make sure you know is this. If you're sitting here thinking, man, I can't really give big, so my gift doesn't really matter. Let me just say that nothing could be further from the truth. The point is that we're putting our heart into the work, and our hearts and our money are connected. So if you look and say, man, I could give like $20 a month, but is that going to do anything? Yes, frankly. And here's why. This work we're talking about financially, I can't lift this alone. Our staff can't lift it. A few key givers can't lift it. Here's what it's going to take. It takes a bunch of us grabbing a little bit of weight, and we all lift it together. If a bunch of people do their part in it, and you know what you can do, whether it's a little or a lot, that's between you and the Lord, right? If everybody carries their weight, this thing will move forward in a strong and powerful way. And guys, I just need to make sure I'm clear with you, and I told you I would be. Where we are as a campus, we are a rapidly growing campus, fairly young, and the limitations we have today happen to be financial ones. That will not always be the case. That our key limiter is going to be a financial one. When we think about the work that's going to happen in that building, how far we can get into that work, how many opportunities we can open up, the limiters for that list are financial. Myself and the staff, we have a bunch of dreams that are beyond what we're even talking about here. The limiter to moving forward on those dreams are financial limiters. So what's beautiful is we today can decide how far we move as a campus and how quickly we can get to some of those opportunities. We literally have staff that want to be on our team and we want them to be here, and it's a financial limiter that's going to cause us to move on that or not. We look at the gym and we want to put a new gym floor in. It's a financial thing it's going to limit if we can do that or not. It's all just the reality. I just need you to know it's where we are. 3 years from now, I'm guessing our limiter is going to be leadership. That we'll need more people to raise their hand and say, I'll be a leader. I'll be trained to be a leader. I'll be coached. That will be our limiter then, almost for sure. Today, it's a financial one. It's just the reality. So guys, as you're looking at your financial decision, big or little, here's what you're going to do, and this is a 3-year window we're talking about, okay? So think about it. It's a long time. I haven't even been a campus pastor here for 3 years, if you're trying to get your head around that amount of time. Right? So that's before COVID. 3 years, you're going to look at that top box on the financial pledge, and you're going to write your total amount that you want to give over a 3-year window. Right? So if you add it all up, what would that be if you're going to give a bunch of different ways? You could give yearly or monthly or weekly. And however you want to do that, you can do that. You can give online, you can give physically here in the boxes, however you're going to do it. But you're going to tell us that total amount right here in that big box. Underneath it, you can check how you want to give. And by the way, there's a bunch of different ways to give financially. It doesn't have to just be cash or check or whatever. People have given cars before. Like, here's my car, take that. People have given property, like, I happen to have a piece of land. One time, the guy came in with a bunch of silver bars. I was like, are you a pirate? This is amazing, right? Like, this is, if you happen to have some treasure hidden in your basement, that's fine. We're not picky, right? But like, whatever you want to do, if you want to have a conversation with our staff about it, figure it out. It's not a big deal. And here's the thing. This decision is between you and the Lord. Our administrative team will receive these. I will never see these pledges. I don't want to, frankly. So this is between you and the Lord, and you're going to let us know if you're going to give, how, and how that all plays out. Now, let me say this. The biggest heart's desire that we have is that if you call Grace Church home, that you would pledge, that you'd be in. And however many of these decisions that you're willing to make, that you would make. You may not be able to do all three. That's okay. Right? Whatever you want to do that. This is not a pressure thing. This is not a compulsion thing. This is between you and the Lord, man. If this vision makes sense and you're like, I'm in on that, then this is for you. If not, no harm, no foul. We love you, okay? This is the big opportunity that we could move toward together if God moves and leads us down that road. Now, there's also, you probably got one of these, or you may be sitting on it. It's a little paint chip. Right? Looks like this. You're like, oh, that's the thing that I've been sitting on for the last hour. What we're going to do is we are going to have you and I are going to fill out some prayer requests on the back of this. We're going to write down 3 words or phrases that we hope to really see movement in the next 3 years. Maybe it's 3 people that you hope come to know Jesus. 3 names. Maybe you would write, fatherless kids, higher middle school, single parents, people that you hope show up in this building in the next 3 years. Maybe they're personal things, and you say, man, I want to overcome this addiction. I want to learn the Bible. I want this to change in my life. It doesn't matter. What do you want there to look like? Make it personal from the heart, and write those 3 things on the back of this paint chip. You're going to write it in the white space. I know there's words there. Just write on top of them. It's okay. Right? All you type A people are freaking out right now, right? It's all right. And what we're going to do is we're going to collect all these paint chips, and we're going to put it together into a piece of art, and then we're going to put it in the new building. And then we're all going to remember the prayers that we prayed for there as we move towards it over the next 3 years. Okay? What you're going to do is we're going to give you guys a little bit of time to do this, to fill these things out. And as you fill out the pledge and you fill out the paint chip, you're going to take both those and you're going to put them in the envelope, right? Put that in the envelope like this. And then in a minute here, I'm going to have the band come out and lead us in a few songs. And when you're ready, when you filled that all out and you're ready to make the commitment, what I'd love to have you do is I'd love to have you bring your pledge, kind of symbolically offer that to the Lord. I want you just to drop it. Drop it right here on the stage. Right? You drop it here on this side if you're on this side of the room, or you can drop it over here on this side of the stage if you're over here. Take your time with it. Here's the thing. I want you to make this a personal decision, a personal commitment between you and the Lord. Lord, I'm in. I want this next 3-year window to be different. I want to be part of what you're doing. I want to go where you're leading, and I want you to move me from here to there. Okay? That's the heart. So that when we look back in 3 years, our prayer is that we can see that God continued to grow us and change us. And here's our vision, right? That 3 years from now, I believe the work we're doing is laying a foundation for this church to become a hub on this side of the city where new churches and campuses could launch from. Right? So that in 3 years from now, I hope we're beginning to dream about where we could start a campus. We won't be ready to do that in 3 years, but we'll be ready to start dreaming about it, thinking about it, praying about it, talking about it, that this area may be saturated, at least in some small part, by the efforts that are going in and the investments that are being made right now. It's personal, it's corporate, we're moving together, all in response to what God has already done. Would you pray with me? Father, we want to praise your name. Lord, for your supernatural provision. Lord, you've done things that are beyond our explanation. Things that we couldn't foresee, couldn't predict. They're beyond, like your word says, more than we could ask or imagine. Lord, now we want to respond to you. Not to earn anything, but because you have already done so much in our lives, Lord, we want to say thank you back to you. Thank you, Lord, that you have gone to such great lengths to bring the gospel to us. Now we want to bring it to others. Lord, you, through the sacrifices of your people, have made this church exist. Now we want to move towards making other churches exist. Thank you for reaching into our lives, Lord. And now we want to reach into the lives of others. Pray for each and every one of us that you would move in our hearts, Lord, as a people in response to your love and your passion and your initiative in our hearts and lives. Be with us here, Lord, even now.